All right, I'm here. I don't hear you. Yep. Thank you.
Oh, man, you're fine.
Hello, glad to have you with us for Red Barn Radio. I'm Bradford Becker. We continue in the 22nd season of Red Barn Radio, and tonight we welcome you to show number 840. 840. Mr. Gary Brewer was raised in Louisville, Kentucky. His grandfather, Finley J. Brewer Sr., performed with the Carter family, and his father, Finley J. Brewer Jr., a.k.a. Jim Brewer, has played music since 1950. Gary formed the infamous Bluegrass group, the Kentucky Ramblers, in 1979-80. Released in 1995, Brewer's album Guitar featured such folks as Bill Monroe, Larry Sparks, and Josh Graves. In 1999, he released his album Jimmy Martin Songs for Dinner with assistance from folks like J.D. Crowe, Doyle Lawson, Bobby Hicks, and Art Stamper. The title song on this tribute to Jimmy Martin was written by Mr. Tom T. Hall, who was on Red Barn Radio before he passed, specifically for this album. In 2000, Brewer was nominated as a finalist twice by the International Bluegrass Music Association for Guitar Player of the Year. George Gruen, international guitar guru and owner of Gruen Guitars in Nashville, has this to say about him: Gary Brewer is to the guitar what Bill Monroe was to the mandolin. Incidentally, Gary also happens to have a world-class collection of museum-quality Martin guitars dating back to 1899. He happened to have brought a few with him this evening. So, guitar geeks, this is going to be one fun night of music and conversation with Gary Brewer and his sons, the Kentucky Ramblers.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to Roots Music Southern Style. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau, More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. LexArts, Lexington, Kentucky's premier cultural development, advocacy, and fundraising organization, working for the development of a strong and vibrant arts community as a means of enhancing the quality of life in Central Kentucky. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers are a family band with roots dating back 6 generations. They've traveled the road, performing in all 50 states, Canada, and Europe extensively since forming in 1980. Today, GBKR takes the stage performing a fusion of American root-style music all their own, which they call Bluegrass. Despite being over 4 decades into his career, Gary Brewer is currently experiencing a new peak following the release of his 2020 album, 40th Anniversary Celebration. The band carried momentum into 2022 with a new single, Pass Along the Good, co-written with multi-Grammy award-winning Americana music icon Jim Lauderdale. Most recently, Gary has undertaken a fascinating project called House of Axes to share what he's learned over his years of collecting guitars. In a series of videos and audio recordings, Gary tells, in a way he can only do it, the great stories behind his instruments and how Martin guitars have evolved over the years and remain a standard in the industry. Gary joins us tonight with his sons Wayne and Mason, who will be with him on stage for a few numbers each set. We are pleased and proud to have with us this evening Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers.
Thank you. We appreciate that so much, and we'd like to call the boys around now. And this will be Mason on the mandolin, and this will be Wayne on the bass, joining us for those of you in radio land. And 'tis the season. 'Tis the season. So we'd like to go back and get you one on our Christmas album from a few years back. Since there's no place to go, let's let it snow and let it snow. All right. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, and the fire is so delightful. Since we know a place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I got some corn for popping. The lights are turned down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally say goodnight, how I hate going out in the storm. But if you could really hold me tight, all the way home I'd be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear will still get by. Long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh yeah. when we finally say goodnight. How I hate going out in the storm. Well, if you could really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear will still get by. Long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Going to go way back now and get you an old song, 8 More Miles to Louisville. And these tunes right here are featured on the 1941 D28 Herringbone. That's my main axe. I've carried this on the road for well over 43 years, and she's still doing good. We're going to do it for you now. Hope you like this one. Oh, thank you so much. Going to switch guitars now. This is really, really a rare guitar. And this is a Porter Wagner D41 Martin guitar, a 2007. It was actually one of 71 ever made. And the first 12 or so were given to family and friends. This one was done by Marty Stewart, and he is the one that made sure all the specs were right. He spec'd it all out and everything, and it boasts Porter and Marty's both signatures on this. I'd like to do a Bill Monroe number now that we included on the House of Axes, and it's called Southern Flavor. Hang on, children, now.
Our guest this evening on Red Barn Radio is Mr. Gary Brewer. Gary is here tonight with his sons Wayne and Mason. They perform together as the Kentucky Ramblers. Gary's best known as the leader of that Kentucky Ramblers band. It's a family band, and their 2020 release, their 40th anniversary celebration, spent 16 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Bluegrass albums chart. It was #3 best-selling project overall in 2021, and it landed, get this, between releases by Ariana Grande and Rob Zombie on the top current albums sales year-end chart. Yeah, he's no slouch at all here. But so we're gonna be talking about all kinds of things tonight. Gary's got a lot of experience and wisdom to share about guitars, and I know a lot of you out there love talking guitars, so I promise you we're going to do some of that. Gary, I'd love to start, though, talking about the Kentucky Ramblers.
Well, yes, sir. We have been doing it a very, very, very long time, and as you mentioned, both of my sons have been in the band now for a number of years, and so this makes soon be, in a couple weeks, it'll be 44 years.
Wow. And how young were the boys when they started playing with you, performing with the Kentucky Ramblers?
Well, Wayne is the oldest. He is now 28 years old. Mason is 21, or 22. And Wayne was, when he was 19 months old, he recorded with me in the studio, and he made the youngest recording artist in the world at 19 months old, really singing. Ooh. So he went on at 3 years old to be the youngest performer on the Grand Ole Opry with me. And he's in the Guinness Book of World Records for that. And then Mason come along, 5.5 years later, and they've both been in it, to make the short of it, since they were really playing and singing past the cute stage.
Sure.
About 2 or 3 years old.
Wow.
So now they're, 20 some odd year veterans themselves, and it's pretty amazing, when I look back on it,
Well, yeah. You got to be proud.
Well, I'm very proud. I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
But they're doing great. They play all the instruments, and Mason's our engineer at Bluegrass Studios. Wayne's my personal manager and agent, and they take care of the bus. They take care of everything. They're taking care of the old man. I just go in, and they tell me where I'm going and what time to be on the bus, and I go and do it, and I'm really enjoying it,
Well, I don't have a schedule like yours, but may my own children care for me as yours are for you.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
And I'm very blessed by that as well.
Yeah, so go back to the early days of the Kentucky Ramblers. That's
Sure.
before the guys were even here.
Sure.
Talk about those days.
Well, those early days, they often say that the early days were hard, and they were, because you're trying to introduce yourself to the world, if you will.
And you're how old at that time, when in 1980?
Well, I started at 14 years old.
Okay.
I come home from school and decided I was going to start a band, and thus the Kentucky Ramblers were born.
Come on.
And I booked my first show, started my band, got my first record deal and everything when I was 14 years old. And I never worked for nobody else. I never did, was a side man for this group or that group. I just started on my own and started writing my own material. Why, I don't know. I'm glad I did. But just songs started coming to me and pouring out. And here I am 52 albums later of my material. And a lot of folks have recorded my stuff, but I have always been proud and honored to go out and do my own stuff. But the early years, I couldn't even drive. You got to remember, at 14. So my parents, they're both gone now, but they were my number one fans, and they bought a motor home as I got more dates, and would cart me to places to perform and get paid. And a funny a little funny tidbit. At 15, one of my school teachers, said, "Well, man, you got a really cool thing going there, and it's just too bad you can't make any money at it and all that."
Oh, come on.
And I said, "Well, last year, which would have been 14, I said, I grossed more than you made all year in 3 months in the summer." And he didn't like that too
I'm
good.
sure he didn't.
But anyways, it's been full on since then. This is the only career that I've ever known. And I've toured all 50 states and 18 countries in Europe and took Kentucky all over the world. And I've been proud to do that. And it's so exhilarating, I guess, when I look back. I was talking with Ed earlier. All this has come, the internet and social media, and all this has come now. So to answer your question full circle, you can reach more audiences now than you could then. It was always wheels turning. I've went through 7 buses and in my career, and now I can reach all the way across the world right now. And I used to tell the boys, I'd say, well, back then you had to go get a band photo, and it costed money to go get a professional photographer. And then you had to go to a studio. You couldn't do it on a home computer or any of those things. And it's just changed a lot for the better. But the times were pretty lean and things like that, And the festivals and the face of those have changed quite a bit. Like I was saying, it used to be fans would come in tents and Volkswagen, the VW vans and things like that. And now people are coming in $750,000 motorhomes, and watching the shows.
Yeah.
So it's changed a whole lot, but it's all for the good. And I've always tried to be 1 foot in tradition and 1 foot going forward,
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy and blessed to still sort of feel relevant, after this many years.
No, you're relevant. So it's interesting to hear you talk about schooling your kids, and what you've learned in the business over all these years. Who schooled you?
Well, really myself. Not that I didn't have peers and things of that nature. I feel so lucky to have been coming up in the business with the original first generation of our industry. Those guys were still around, and how wonderful that was, to come off the stage and there stands this one and that one, you know what I mean? And they would give me ideologies, of where to go and how to take my music and how to present it and things like that too. Guys like Bill Monroe and Mac Wiseman and Jim and Jesse and the Osborne brothers, those guys, Ralph Stanley, all those guys, the first generation, were so good to me and always had time for me. And they would, compliment me and things like that, And I appreciated that they would take time, to talk with me or maybe say, hey, I like what you're doing, things of that nature, And there's so many that we don't have time to mention. I want people to know that, just so many. But, my dad was with me, and he would say, man, that's a really good hot lick, or you've learned this hot lick and that hot lick, but don't do them all in one verse. He would give me pointers like that, and don't play over people's heads. And now he's talking about the audience, He said, make it where they can understand it. And things like that. And I took that to heart because a lot of times I feel musicians, especially young musicians, it's just because they don't have the experience, but they'll get it, is they play for the musician, like, look what I can do. And the musician's not the one that buys the tickets to those shows. They're not the ones that buy the albums. And so you want to play to that audience, and you want to give them what they want. And that's what I've tried to do my whole career, is just, if they like Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers on the radio, I wanted to be able to represent that live. So in other words, I didn't hire an orchestra in the studio and then go out on the concert tour with 3 people.
Right.
I wanted to be real, and I wanted them to get what they liked.
So you're not necessarily talking about dumbing the music down. You're talking about just making it accessible, right?
Yes.
And as a guitar player, you certainly are capable of doing all manner of improv and whatnot and going all over the place. When your dad was saying to you, don't go over the head of the audiences, is that what he was talking about? Hug the melody a little bit more?
Yes, sir.
Make sure that they remember what the song is?
Yes, sir.
You're not going to...
The theory was always, to me as well, if you caught a song in the middle of the song, could you recognize it? Could you recognize what it was? Was it Wildwood Flower? Or was it just strictly improvising? There's nothing wrong with that, but what makes the song identifiable? Well, the melody of it, of the song. So I have always tried to incorporate the melody of the song, but I go around the edges too. But I always wanted it to be recognizable. And I think that's important for the audience, because if you love a song, there's a reason why you love that song. And it's probably to do with the medley or the words.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that's a comfort space for me when I'm listening to a guitarist play a lead. I do want to know what that tune is. I want to be reminded, and I'm okay being reminded.
Yes, sir.
What that tune is. I wonder if younger audiences are changing that way. I wonder if the younger listeners maybe are a little bit more interested in, let's see this guy's chops.
Yeah, well, I think, again, as we talked about the new age that we live in, there's so much information available to our young people online and YouTube and so forth, that they can see everybody that they ever wanted to see.
Right.
And view it, if you will, live, in person. And I lived it. I got to see it live.
Yeah.
And the difference of that is dramatic. But to be more direct on your question, yes, I do believe that they admire where the music's been, and I think that they're looking forward to furthering that music to today. And I think, again, with one foot in tradition and one foot looking forward,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I've been somewhat of a forerunner in that, just to the degree of staying afloat for 44 years, and I have mentored a whole lot of young players and performers about how to run a band, how to run a bus. I've never leased a bus. I've always bought my own and run it. And I've taught my boys, to go back to what you mentioned, I taught them, you get under that bus when we get home and you go over that bus. That's your life on the road. If you hear something odd, find out what it is, because you'll save yourself a lot of money. And you have to have your briefcase, your business, in one hand and your guitar in the other. And nobody taught me that. I learned the ropes by watching our first generation. And oddly enough, pardon me, you can learn something every day. You never get to be where you can't learn. And it's just as important to watch a new band or a young band, a novice band, or a legend, And you can not only learn what to do, but it's just as important to learn what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll take all of that knowledge and mix it up in yourself and give somebody yourself, that's what I think I'd like to press to the young generation, is we've already had a Whispering Bill Anderson and a Ralph Stanley and a Tiny Tim and a Elton John. You know, we've had everything that you can have, and at our best, we can't be them. So we need to be ourselves. And how the music comes out can be dynamically the individual. And that's what Full Circle is with this House of Axes. What it's about is each guitar has a voice, all of its own, without a player. And I like to take this guitar and help it speak what it speaks best. And each guitar has a different sound. Some of them are more mellow, some of them are more this or that, and they have different voices. And my job as a performer and entertainer is to let this guitar speak what it does. If you think about what's these guitars seen, where have they been, who's played them, how much money they've made, or whatever, the life they've lived. And the industry knows me as collecting a lot of these pre-war guitars. I have over 100 vintage Martins. And they'll always say, my peers, which axe did you bring on this concert? What you got in the bus today?
Yeah, right.
And the idea will come from my son Wayne, and he said, we need to kind of do something that people can see some of your collection and hear it and answer a lot of those questions. So thus, the House of Axes was born, and it started out just being a video of the actual songs being recorded. And then it was gaining popularity before it even come out, and we decided to go ahead and release it as a CD. So now you purchase the CD, and in there's a QR code, and you scan that, and you get the live video of the actual recording with these museum quality guitars. All of them are first cut, live cuts, just like tonight. I'm an old school dude. I play it. If it's perfect, great. If there's a flub, it's on there. And I think that's real. I like that. I want somebody to see and hear the real thing, not something that's been doctored or altered. Again, why muzzle a voice, right?
Sure.
Could you imagine, if you will, somebody like Rod Stewart with a crystal clear voice instead of a raspy voice? You know what I'm saying? That's what made him who he is. Could you imagine a Ralph Stanley without that raspy, hard-driving mountain voice? If somebody went to him early on and said, we need to educate you and get that Virginia mountain twang out of your mouth so people can view you this way. Thank goodness that never happened, right? And that's the way that I feel for young people. Be yourself. If you got a low voice, sing with it. If you got a high voice, sing with it. If you play the guitar different than anybody, amen. And here's the guitar. It's only this long. And you're going to hit somebody else's licks, but it can be all the way that you do it that makes it you.
Well, this begins our conversation about guitars. I got a lot of questions.
No problem.
But we need to get back to some music.
Sure.
Let's welcome back Gary Brewer on Red Barn Radio.
All right, thank you. Okay, I've switched over now to a 1948 all original D28, very rare guitar. like to do this one for you. My granddaddy worked with the original Carter family back in the 20s. And this is an old mountain ballad for those of you enthusiasts out there. The original title of this song was called Sourwood Ridge. Bluegrass got a hold of it and turned it into Sourwood Mountain, but the original Sourwood Ridge, and I'm going to get from one end to the other on this one, all right? Well, in lieu of Kentucky, and nearby where we're sitting, there used to be an old man named Old Joe Clark. And that's an old song. And I took the song, changed it, and put it in a minor, and recorded it on the guitar record years ago. And I'd like to do my version of it for you now. I call it the Old Miner, Joe Clark. Okay, we'd like to call the boys back in now, and Mason and Wayne. And here's a song that I wrote back a number of years ago, and on the 40 record, my 40th anniversary, it featured the great and beautiful country singer Ashton Shepherd come on and sung this, and it was on CMT in a video. And we'd like to do it for you now. It's one called Love in the Mountains. I was born in the mountains, way back in the hills. I lived there with Mom and Daddy, and I guess always will. There was love in the mountains. It made me want to stay. There was love in the mountains. It gets sweeter every day. Trees in the mountains stand up so tall, their branches swayed in the evening breeze, and the moon right above, it made love in the mountains. It made me want to stay. There was love in the mountains. It gets sweeter every day. There was love in the mountains. Made me want to stay. There was love in the mountains. It gets sweeter every day. There was love
we've got lots more music and conversation with Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers. But I do want to tell you about what we have coming up on January 3, another amazing program of bluegrass music with the Bibelhauser brothers based in Louisville. They are super talented brothers who will absolutely wow you with both their vocal and instrumental power, in addition to writing songs recorded by award-winning bluegrass artists including Del McCoury, Balsam Range, Michael Cleveland, and Dale Ann Bradley. Aaron Bibelhauser has spent the past 20 years working with several Kentucky-based ensembles and hustling as a sideman and utility player on banjo, pedal steel, guitar, dobro, piano, bass, guitar. Twin brother Adam, he too has spent the past couple of decades developing one of the most powerful voices in bluegrass music and his own style as a bassist as well as a guitarist. His commanding presence, grit, and grace, both on and off stage, are in a league of their own. Get the date on your calendar, folks. We want you with us for the live stream performance with Aaron and Adam, January 3 in studio and on Red Barn Radio's live stream, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. Now back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program. We welcome you live on our social media platforms, broadcasting from the Arts Place Performance Hall here in the grand city of Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome back, Gary Brewer.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, it's great to be here, man.
Yeah, it's really
is.
nice that you could come and do this. Having a great time.
Thank you, sir.
This is very
Appreciate it.
special. You're gonna go ahead and do a few more tunes, and then we'll come back and interview you in a few minutes.
All right, great. This next song, yet another guitar, is this is the first Martin guitar that I ever got. My dad bought me this when I was around 14 or 15 or so, and this is a 1968 D28 Martin, all original. And this is really a very, very, very important year for Martin guitars. This is the last full production of Brazilian rosewood. So this is a wonderful guitar. I'm going to go really way back now, and this is one I featured on the House of Axes, as these all are. This is a kind of a medley of songs that I used to hear my granddaddy play. I mentioned he played with the Carter family. He played the guitar, he played the fiddle, the old-time banjo, he played a harp, he played a paper sack. He could make music out of anything. And this is a couple that he used to mix together, and I'm going to do this without a pick, and this is the way that he played back in the day. And I'm going to do it for you. And I'm mixing up two of them. One of them's called Foggy Mountain Top, and the other one's called Lonesome Road Blues, all right? right, I'd like the boys to come back up and join this one with me. This is a original song that I wrote on the guitar. And Mason will join us on the cajon now, and Wayne on the bass. And this is about a big rock that I used to play on as a kid down in Roan Mountain, Tennessee, the head of Shell Creek, the tip top of the mine holler on the backside of Sawmill Hill, just below the old Ellis graveyard. Used to be a big old Indian rock up there, and it was called the Tom Rock. And it's called the Tom Rock Twist, all right? Okay, another one we'll do while the boys is up here. This is a really old Carter family number, and me and my dad recorded this years ago for Copper Creek and Rebel Records out of Roanoke, Virginia. And it was called Two of a Kind was the name of the album. Me and Dad were sure enough to, well, actually, he was a pistol and I was a son of a gun. So, you know, that's the way that worked. And we'll keep your seats, folks, keep your seats. We'll be back tomorrow night. What we'd like to do is do this one in remembrance of all the old the Carter family. They're dear friends of ours through the years, and we'll do this one for you. It's kind of a little novelty piece. You might not have heard this before, but here it is. All right. Sent me to the spring, she told me not to stay. I fell in love with a pretty little girl and I could not get away. Chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum, chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum. Oh yeah. Gave me peaches nice, next she gave me pears, and then she gave me 50 cents, kissed me on the stairs. Chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum, chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum. sent me to the spring. She told me not to stay. Fell in love with a pretty little girl and could not get away. Chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum, chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum. Well, I wouldn't marry a doctor, man. I'll tell you the reason why. Each time he opens up his mouth, tells a great big lie. Chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum, chawing, chewing gum, chewing, chawing gum. Oh yeah. Suey.
All right.
That makes my chiggers itch.
Nice. All right. Well, Gary, so I was interested in our conversation earlier. You were talking about the voice of an instrument,
Yes, sir.
talking about the House of Axes project, and as I understand it, part of the objective there was to just share what you've learned about these instruments, to tell some stories about the instruments, but also you wanted people to also get a sense of the different kinds of voices they have.
Yes, sir.
And so now I'm thinking of all the high-res file evangelists out there like Neil Young who say, you know what, I'm not going to put anything of mine out on MP3 because it's not going to capture that nuance. It's not going to capture the power of the music. And I guess I wonder, when you got down to the business of, of deciding on this project, did you give some thought to that, the very fact that here you were going to be presenting to people, the subtleties and nuances of some of these beautiful instruments, yet they're going to be listening to them while they're running on a treadmill or in their on a cheap stereo in their car. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, it's interesting concept with this kind of recording. All those things crossed our minds. And then, of course, the best word for something like this is, and life for that matter, is organic. Hearing, there's nothing like hearing live music in the audience. That's the best, okay? Everybody can't come to that live audience. So how do you give them that feel of being there and not lose the feel of that, if that makes sense? Maybe I can elaborate a little further. Like on this record here, the House of Axes, I had all the microphones set on 0. And the enthusiasts out there, and even people that don't know the music business, they can relate to this. If you get in your car stereo and you turn on your volume to number 5, so many times when you're hearing something on the radio, number 5 is a good place where you can hear it good, but you can still function. And then the next song comes on and it's on a 3, and you have to turn it up. And then all of a sudden the announcer comes on and it's on an 8. And those discrepancies in that are fluid. Well, I wanted this record to be strictly organic, to where they get the feel of the different sounds of these instruments. Even though they're not there, they can hear the difference in the instrument, because the microphones are not being fooled with. They're not having effects put on them and things of that nature. So when I pick up one of these guitars, to you folks that's out there listening right now, nothing's being altered. It's the pure voice, if you will, of that guitar. And I can play one guitar and grab another one and play it, and you'll hear the differences in those instruments. Some of them will be like the kind of bluesy number a moment ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty nasty. You know, the guitar sounds nasty. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But then you have another one that's very subtle, and different guitars have different voices, much like me and you and anyone listening. And if you altered those voices like I mentioned a minute ago, nobody isn't really getting the authentic voice. And this is what I wanted to do with this record. I wanted them to have the opportunity to sit in their car or on the treadmill or wherever they listen to music, okay? And feel like they were in that room with that guitar and that player, which is me. And that's why that the House of Axes was born, and then the videos with it too. So you can actually match it up and see it. It's all the same. Nothing's changed. And in this world right now of AI, you're not sure what you're listening to. You don't know if you're really listening to a guitar or is it strings on an organ. You know, you can pick those things on these keyboards, strings and all that. You can make those sound like a harmonica. And on the record, you can't tell what it is. It's liable to be a guy playing a harmonica on a piano, and you're hearing a harmonica sound. Indeed. But I will promise you, there is nothing remotely close if you were in the same place with somebody playing a harp versus that. And it's the same way I feel about an acoustic guitar. An electric guitar, they do have their own sound. However, they are altered due to them being amplified, okay? And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying it's most of the time with an electric instrument, you're hearing an altered version of it because it has no really standalone sound. But an acoustic instrument does. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. That's really the beauty of it. And I really feel like if that's got close to answering your question.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I feel like it's significant to do this. Nobody's done this. We researched it. Our team researched it. And I think that the younger generation, I think they'll dig it because it's so old it's new. You know what I mean? It's like bell bottoms. You know, they've came back.
Dated reference right there. Yeah, that's right.
They've came back, and we were talking earlier. Vinyls are back. I'm selling more vinyls now than I did when the vinyls were in.
Isn't that crazy, huh?
Well, it's not crazy. You know, I know what you're saying, but it's really full circle, and I believe life is that way. I believe whatever's in right now, clothing-wise. Let's just say clothing-wise.
Being fashion mavens as we are.
I'm telling you, folks. In another 30 years, it'll come back. Just hang on to it, put it in a drawer, and that's like this. If you don't believe what I'm telling you, let me say this. Right now, and he's a friend of mine, one of the biggest country stars in our field right now is Chris Stapleton. He's a former bluegrasser, okay? Right now, he's going out solo a lot. Just him, listen to what I'm saying, very organically. Him and a guitar. I wonder if our listeners out there tonight heard him sing at the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Him and a guitar, right? Best version I think I've ever heard. You know what I'm talking about, right? Organic. You've got guys like Travis Tritt. big country star. His daughter's out playing now. He's going and doing solo acts, just him and a guitar. Marty Stewart, he's going out on some dates, just him and a mandolin. I wonder why that is. I don't wonder why. I know why.
Yep.
And I think you do too. And I
People
think
want-
our
right.
listeners do.
People want intimacy.
That's it.
And they want a person. They want to feel like they're connecting with a person.
Yes, sir. They want organic. They don't want smoke and mirrors. That's the best way to say it.
And it's also something that isn't something that can happen looking at a screen.
Correct.
You know, you're in the presence, even if you're 500 seats back in a house, you're with other people who are experiencing it with you, and you know that's an amazing thing. I have so many questions to ask about Martin guitars. So can we get to some of that?
Yes, sir.
How about if you just tell a couple of stories about how you have acquired a couple of your favorite stories about acquiring certain instruments. Rodney Crowell, I was listening to him talk the other day, and he said all of the very best and my most cherished instruments are ones that were given to me. And he's not saying that just because they're cherished because they were given to him. They're cherished because they're amazing instruments, but they were gifted to him.
Yes, I've heard Vince Gill say the same thing. You know, and what I would say, my light on that is how I got into that and how I got started with that was, I guess like everybody else. I'm at an event, a concert, touring and performing, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, man, there's a guy sitting back here on a cinder block, you know, at a campfire playing this old Martin guitar, and he's trying to sell it." And I'm like, I should go check that out, you know?
Yes.
So I'd go check it out, and what are you wanting for it, you know? And if I could afford to buy it, I thought, I'll buy it, and just like we all do about anything, hey, man, I'll flip it. Maybe I can make a few bucks on it, right?
Sure. So you can buy another instrument you've been looking for.
Correct.
Right.
That's how George Gruen got started. So with that in mind, I thought, I'll buy it and play it a little while, and then I'll sell it. And I'll...
True story here. Are you
Yes, sir.
telling a story about
Yes, sir.
a guitar you picked up? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I would get one, and then I couldn't let it go. People would offer the money I asked for, and I've decided not to sell it. And 100 guitars later, it just got hard. I have sold some through the years, but they were ones that didn't pique my interest or have a significant story or something behind it. And I'll make a point. One of my all-time favorite stories, and it is the most holy grail guitar that I have. Furthermore, not to boast, but it is the most holy grail guitar in the world today. And I mean that. Martin does not even have one in the museum. It is a 1899 single-aught herringbone, all original. And how I acquired this guitar, there should be a book on it, but I will condense it. I was in Louisville, and I had my big Bluegrass festival in Louisville for over 20 years called Strictly Bluegrass, a festival I organized and produced. And everyone's familiar with the Pegasus Parade during the Kentucky Derby. So the city asked me to go down and basically walk in the parade and promote my festival. So I got me a little prop guitar, meaning not really a player's guitar. Didn't even have strings on it. And I turned it on the back like this, and I got some masking tape, and I wrote thanks on it, like Ernest Tubb.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm walking through all these thousands and thousands of people, advertising my festival. Then when you get to the end of the parade, they put you on a city bus and take you back to the beginning. You do it again. You do it till it's done. So on this bus trip, I'm sitting there, and this little old lady, no disrespect, she says, "Play me one on that guitar." And I said, "Well, honey," I said, "it's just a prop guitar. You know, it doesn't even have strings, you know." She said, "You know, I've got a little guitar like that." She said, "It's an Italian guitar. Something like I believe it's a Martini." And, of course, you know,
What?
my radar goes off, of course. And I said, "An Italian?" She said, "Yeah, it's an Italian." She said, "My grandmother bought it new, and my mom, and it's come down through our family." And stuff, and I was like, "Well, you know," and I said, "Would it be a Martin?" She said, "No, it's an Italian. It's a Martini." So I finally said, she said, "You know, I would just almost give that to somebody if I knew they could play it, you know." And she said, you know, so anyways, like I said, it's a very long story. I'll condense it for the listeners. So I sat there on that bus on this trip. It was only like 5 minutes, but it seemed like 5 hours. And the hair got standing up on the back of my neck. And because I told her, I give her my card, and I said, "You know, give me a call sometime. I'll come look at it." And I got this study, and I thought, I better get her number.
Good idea.
You know what I mean? So I did. And that was on the weekend. On Tuesday, the following week, I called her up, and me and my dad went up there to her home. And I got up there, and she come carrying out this guitar in the case. And it was an 1899 single lot herringbone. I really didn't know really what it was. I knew enough to be dangerous. It had herringbone binding, and it was 13.5 inches across the bridge here, which signifies the single lot 28 herringbone. And so I basically called a friend of mine at Gruen's, and I said, "Here's this serial number, man. What am I looking at? You know, what is this?" And they said, "You have that guitar in front of you?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "You got a tape measure?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, I've got a yardstick." Now, this woman's pushing 90. And so she gets yardstick, and he said, "Please tell me it's 13.5 inches across right here." I said, "That's exactly what it is." He said, "Under no circumstances are you to leave that house without that guitar." And I said, "Okay, that was good enough for me." So this story is on the House of Axes. And I said, "Honey, what do you want for the guitar?" She said, "Well, I really don't know. Would you make me an offer?" And I want everybody to listen to this. It's always, you're supposed to always do the right thing, right? So she said, "How about such and such amount of money?" I said, "Honey, the guitar's worth much more than that." She said, "Well, you just name the price." And it's undisclosed. I won't tell anybody. But I give her 3 times what she asked for the guitar. Okay? And it's priceless. The guitar is priceless. And I told her that. And she said, "It's going to lay under my bed until it rots." She said, "That's one thing about living to be in your 90s. All your friends and family die." You know, she's outlived everybody and stuff. And I said, "Well, that's good." And I said, "Man, what a nice gift to myself. It was my birthday, April the 19th. She said, "Well, you're such a good, honest person, and treating me right on this guitar." She said, "I was going to keep something that went with that guitar, but I want you to have it." She brings me an 8x10 black and white picture of her mother. Now, this lady, like I said, is about close to 90, of her mother in the 20s in a businesswoman's ensemble in Louisville with this guitar in the picture. And if I'd like to get the view of this to the people. It was a big room with small desks and typewriters. And I would guess that there was probably 50 women sitting at these typewriters in this photo. And in each one of the little desk areas they were sitting in, they all had instruments. And she was up front with this guitar. And here's the clincher. On that guitar, there was a capo. Okay, this is in the 20s. Like the capos we use now that stay on the guitar, like the Pages and McKinney's and all the guitars that, the capos that are like that. And here it was in the 20s. I found that really intriguing. Huh. That capo is made out of copper and brass. And the part that goes on the strings was stitched leather, brown stitched leather with red stitching. And the leather has been decayed. It's still there to this day. And that was on that, in that picture on that guitar, and she gave me that picture and that capo with that. And that's one of my most prized possessions. And I feature that on the 2 medley songs I played a minute ago because of the error that those songs come out, and that's when it was. Ah. And I played that on the guitar. That's the one I used the fingers and not the pick. And I tell the story on the record. Mm-hmm. And I want you and the listeners to know I have the distinct honor to have 3 original herringbones from 3 centuries. And I have 2 of them here with me tonight. And so that'll give you an idea where a lot of these came from. The one I'm getting ready to play right now was my dad's. I bought this for him. It's a 1959 D28E, super rare guitar. E stood for electric. It had a pickup in it originally in 1959.
Where was the pickup?
The pickup was under the bridge,
okay.
And then the knob was here on the butt of the guitar. And I'd be glad to show you later, but the thing that really makes this something is when the original owner bought this guitar, he, off the showroom floor, he had Martin take the pickup out of it and plug it at the factory. So it never did come out of Martin's factory as an electric. And that's what another thing that makes it extremely rare. And it has a small neck, really small, like an electric guitar would have. And there's only just a skosh of those was ever released. And this is one of them. And it is an absolute killer guitar. One of the things I love about it most these days, they use lacquer, heavy lacquer for the finish. And like an old hearse or any vehicle back in the day, they shot them with lacquer to protect the paint, and they always crack. Well, this is not the guitar crack, it's the finish. But it's the coolest looking finish. They call it spider cracks. And I'll show it to you later, and the folks can go online and see it. But it's just the coolest guitar, and it was my dad's. And I'm going to play a song that he sung all the time like a little novelty piece in a moment.
All right. Is this Little Rosewood Casket?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, let's welcome back Gary Brewer. Thanks, Gary.
This is one that I'll do. And me and Dad recorded this song. And this is a really old Stanley Brothers classic. And one of the forerunners in the guitar field for bluegrass and this style of music was the late and great George Shuffler. And he was a dear friend of mine. And anywhere that Gary Brewer would be playing, if I was close to his native home around North Carolina there, he would show up there and pay a ticket to see me. And I honored him with this song every time I got to see him. And this features a style of picking that he helped develop, and it's called cross picking. and he done it different, and I do it different. But it's the style. And the song is called Little Rosewood Casket. All right, we're going to switch guitars now, and this is the other original herringbone, and this is the year 2000, and this is the newest herringbone that I have. That's the HD 28 2000 bicentennial, or not bicentennial, but the millennium issue. And this is a song that my dad used to sing all the time, kind of a novelty song. This is really probably one of the oldest songs that you folks will hear tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's a kind of a fun tune. And it's called The Little Brown Jug, all right? Stump, I rode down the hill, went thump, thump, thump. Ah, ha, ha, you and me, a little brown jug, don't I love thee? Well, I bought me a cow from Farmer Jones. She wasn't nothing but skin and bones. I dressed her up in the finest silk. She jumped the fence and strained her milk. Ha, 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 you and me, a little brown jug, don't I love thee? Ha, 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 you and me, a little brown jug, don't I love thee? Think about a deed I'd done, to grab my gun and away I run. Ah, ha, ha, you and me, a little brown jug, don't I love thee? Okay, now here's where they could fade this out, because they said they'd like to have a dark thing, you know, maybe that wasn't appropriate. So we'll throw this in. Don't let your mind run away, okay? see if I can remember the words out of it. Suet! Well, now when I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother bought me a new little toy, silver string hanging on the bell, and I forgot the words. Let's try it again now. Well, now when I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother bought me a new little toy, silver bells hanging on the string. She told me it was my ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. I want you to play with my ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. I want you to play with my ding-a-ling. Suet! Daddy always taught me when I got a hold of something good, just hang on to it. That's a cute little Chuck Berry song. Do you guys remember that? That is, Chuck Berry wrote that and recorded it. And it's a true story. You know, it's not about what you think it is.
Oh, no.
When I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother bought me a new little toy. Bought me a new little toy. Silver bells hanging on a string. She told me it was my ding-a-ling.
Sure.
My ding-a-ling, my
Needed
ding-a-ling.
no
Yeah, I want you
explanation
to
for
play
me,
with
Gary.
And that was it.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a holiday number.
That's right. Well, old-time mountain music is a vital part of Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers, following with my granddaddy. Yep. And for when you hear a GBKR concert, whether it's a stadium show, whether it's in a theater, wherever it's at, Bluegrass Festival, we'll always do a few old-time mountain music pieces. And when I say old-time mountain music, the banjo's tuned up in a key that my granddaddy helped develop back in the early 20s, and he called it the Sawmill C. A lot of people call it double C, but you still have to drop another string. But they didn't have tuners and stuff like we do now to get everyone in tune together. So he had a big sawmill and a big old 6-foot blade, and when that thing would get to roaring, it put off a hum. And he would tune the instruments to the hum of that saw. And he could tune the fiddle, he could tune the banjo or guitar to that, and they would all be in the same tune together. And so I'd like to do you a few old-time mountain pieces, and Wayne switched off to the old-time fiddle. Again, that's Wayne Brewer on the fiddle and the bass.
Thank you, folks.
And Mason has switched off the mandolin and the cajon over to the bass. And I've got the old banjo. And we'll do you this number here. My granddaddy's always said this was the best dance piece that was ever invented. He played it for nearly about 86 years. He made it to almost 100, and he got killed in a car wreck on his way to his girlfriend's house.
Right.
So,
We're going to make him dance right there in the beginning.
yeah, he'll dance. He's going to flatfoot. Now, you folks that's listening online will not be able to see him, but you'll be able to hear him. He's just like a bull in a china shop. All right? All right, here we go now. It's called Walking in the Parlor. Walking in the parlor, walking in the way, walking in the parlor, hear the band play. I like beans and I like grits and I like girls with great big eyes. Walking in the parlor, walking in the way, walking in the parlor, hear the band play. 6 times 6 is 36, and I ain't gonna hit but just 6 more legs. G.I. beans and G.I. gravy, gee, I wished I'd joined the Navy. Walking in the parlor, walking in the way, walking in the parlor, hear the band play.
Well, there are many people to thank for our program. First, Gary Brewer, Wayne Brewer, and Mason Brewer, our guests this evening.
Thank you, folks.
We want to thank to WEKU, Red Barn's premier radio partner, Central and Eastern Kentucky's radio news leader. You can listen online at weku.org. It's your chance to hear more great live music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Those of you here in the Central Kentucky area, be sure to check out Red Barn TV. It's our weekly program of music, now on ABC 36 WTVQ. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. Hey, while you're on the web, you can sign up for our weekly email newsletter. It'll let you know who's coming up next with bio and links on our upcoming guests. That's news at Red Barn Radio. Put subscribe in the header. And also be sure on our website to check out for specifics about an Appalachian winter solstice. We call it Reflections. It's a program of music selected from our last 10 years of Christmas programs. This is a terrific, terrific broadcast, and hope you won't miss it. The show will be seen and heard on KET Kentucky, ABC 36, and on our network of Red Barn stations and media worldwide. Be sure to give it a listen. Now, before we close out tonight's program, can we bring back Gary Brewer and the Kentucky Ramblers for one more number?
Thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
I'd like this. It's been great fun.
Thank you guys for what you do. We appreciate it. All right. Here's one of our old-time numbers that we feature just about everywhere that we go, and it's one that it's so old you got to shave it before you can play it, okay? All right? Cindy in the summertime now, all right? Cindy in the fall, up Cindy all the time, won't be Cindy tall. Get along home, Cindy, get along home. Get along home, Cindy, marry you someday. little face. Get along home, home, Cindy, get along home. Get along home, home, Cindy, marry me and Wayne. When she saw me leaving, she wrung her hands and cried. When she saw me leaving, she faded away and died. Get along home, home, Cindy, get along home. Get along home, home, Cindy, marry you someday.
All right. Well, that's all for our show for this week, folks. You can see and hear Red Barn Radio worldwide as we stream live on the web on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. You can also listen to archive performances on all of your favorite streaming platforms. Remember, every like, comment, share, subscribe, they all help bring roots music Southern style to your neck of the woods. Now, from all of us here at Red Barn Radio to all of our friends worldwide, have a terrific week and a wonderful holiday. Keep working together to be safe and healthy. And until next time, good night from Red Barn Radio.